Aside from the Hess letters, there were numerous issues surrounding the Duke, not least the claims of illegitimate children that he had fathered across the world. The question of the Duke's sexuality has long intrigued. Before meeting Wallace, he was known to have had many affairs, including a long-standing one from just after the First World War until 1929 with Freda, the wife of William Dudley Ward, a Liberal member of Parliament. As with Wallace, there was a certain mother fixation. He called her Fweddy Weddy, and their correspondence was marked by lots of baby talk. Very angry, and your own little David is crying so hard inside. And dirty jokes. Ew, 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 ew. Yeah! I hate it so much. I cannot stand people who engage in baby talk in adult relationships. It's extremely weird to me. And I don't understand that at all. And then to sprinkle in the baby talk and then the dirty jokes, it's just like, ugh, you need to go take a bath or something. Just become a clean person. This is dirty behavior. Don't talk like a baby and tell a dirty joke in a baby talk. Ew, yuck. Okay, anyway. A petite, elegant, loyal, discreet woman with a good sense of humor. She has been seen by the Duke's friends as a good influence on him. It's very interesting that on the outside she was elegant, loyal, and discreet, yet in her letters she was 100% cool with the baby talk and the dirty jokes. I mean, I guess we all have two sides, and some people see more of us than the rest of the world does, but I think it's interesting that they would think that she was a good influence on him when he was being encouraged to talk like a little baby. David is crying inside. He's very sad. Yuck. Anyway, for whatever reason, the friends thought it was a good relationship, even though Freda was married to somebody else. So it's okay, but even if she was a stunning beacon of excellence, she's married. Your friends should not be encouraging this. And I know. Everybody in the comments is people had mistresses back then, okay? It was just a normal, everyday part of life. It's just the way life flowed. Okay, I don't care what's normal, okay? The Romans had normalized crucifixion and lined the roads with tortured criminals, right? Just because something is normal doesn't mean that it's okay and acceptable. So I'm just enough already with everybody telling me as though I didn't already know. People had mistresses back then. It's just sort of the way the elite worked. Well, that's great. Good for them. But it's still morally repugnant. Anyway, Freda, even though she's married, she's with the Duke and everyone thinks it's a great thing. Freda only learned that she had been dropped as a royal favorite when the Buckingham Palace switchboard refused to put calls through. But what most hurt her was the behavior to her two young daughters, Penelope and Angela, as he had, quote, been like a father to them. But dear lady, your two daughters do have a father. His name's William Dudley Ward. And that's who Penelope and Angela's dad really is. So to be all I can't believe he would drop us like this. It's just such a shock. He was like a father to them. Well, dear, maybe turn back to old William if he'll still have you and see if maybe he could father the two kids that belong to him. Anyway, she told an author, Caroline Blackwood, that whatever, he's turned his back on her, but can you believe that he would do the girls wrong like this? And this is her example. She said they adored him, but once he met the Duchess, they never heard from him again. The Duke did something that really shocked me. It was so petty and cruel that it really hurt me. He had arranged for one of my daughters, who was quite small at the time, to receive a pearl from a jeweler every time she had a birthday. The idea was that she would have a necklace by the time that she was grown up. The moment he met the Duchess, he canceled the order with the jeweler. I thought it was really shocking that the Duke, who had more jewelry than anyone in the world, would take away a tiny pearl necklace from a child. All right, lady, pull it together. It's a lovely gesture, and it is weird that he would suddenly, he didn't have any problem, seeing you, and it was a well-known thing that he was seeing you, even though you were married. He didn't have any problem, being a father figure to a couple of girls who had a dad. But, it's all right, what, if he's going to be okay functioning on this low moral level, then can you really be surprised that he'd do your daughter dirty as you see it? This isn't a person who's functioning with a correct set of moral standards. His moral compass is way off key. You, of all people, should know it. He was willing to get in bed with you. you have a husband, but he didn't seem to draw the line there. So are you really shocked that suddenly he's showing that he doesn't have the appropriate decision-making mechanism in his heart, head, and soul? Come on, lady. All right, but it also seems like, on a side note, don't you know that Wallace Simpson would have put the kibosh on any kind of relationship that he had with anybody that she did not sanction. Now, I'm not even saying that Wallace Simpson wasn't kind of a kook herself and might have been like, hey, let's, party all together, because I think that there may have been some of that. But if he was having like an emotional attachment to somebody else, I do not think she would have been okay with that. And to take care of somebody else's child, or to give gifts to somebody else's child, or to have any sort of paternal affection, I think she would have been really annoyed by that and felt very, I think she would have felt very threatened by that, particularly because she didn't have any children for him to, show paternal affection to. So I don't think she would have wanted to look at him doing anything nice for anybody else's kids. And I imagine that she had a hand in canceling that little gift. Ward was not immediately usurped by Wallace. Actually, there was a woman in between. So it was Ward, and then it was this woman named Thelma Furness, who was a former actress. And then apparently she had told her friend Wallace to look after the little man when she was away on a trip, and the rest is history. We all know this. And we know the story about when she came back and, she saw him and her sharing food off of a plate, and it became appallingly apparent to her that something more was going on. I think he tried to take some food off her plate. She hit him on the top of the hand, and she's like, oh, things have changed here. Look at this playful little interaction that they have. And she knew that her time was up with the Duke. Anyway, along the way, there were many affairs, especially on the world tours that he made after the First World War. Okay, now we get into all the list of his illegitimate children. And I would say this, dear friends. The list is long, the list is many. The evidence is bleak. Because it's a lot of people being like, they certainly bore a resemblance, and he did come around the stables a lot when she was there, and, well, we all thought it was true, and not one of these people are like, we have letters of him confessing that, this is true. I think one person in this long list is going to have been contacted by the Duke's lawyers upon the Duke's death. Some things that are like, all right, it's probably pretty obvious that there was something going on there, but there's no smoking gun in any of these for the most part, but we'll read through them anyway because it is interesting. Apparently, he had had some kind of an affair with a French seamstress, and this affair produced a son named Pierre Edouard. And then Friedrich Evans, born in 1918, claims that his concert pianist mother, Lillian Bartlett, had an affair with the prince, and that his birth was registered as the son of a Welsh miner, James Evan, and that she told the prince of the boy, and he responded with financial support. So maybe this is why he was so seemingly cheap, because, he's got kids just sort of pigeonholed away across the world. Imagine the child support situation, right? So already the French seamstress has got a kid with him. The concert pianist has got a kid with him. Then apparently he even had kids as far away as New Zealand. When he'd gone on this New Zealand tour, the prince impregnated a servant who went on to have a son. And the boy's mother was paid a remittance from London, and they nicknamed him around the town King. And a friend said that the king would strut around town, and he had a great resemblance to the Prince of Wales' father, as he wore similar clothes and he wore the royal beard. Okay, so you know what I'm saying? It's like, it's most likely true. What with the money coming from London and all of this. But at the same time, I think what the proof is that he had sexual relationships with these women, in that he'd be willing to shell out money at all. But there's no proof that these kids are actually his. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like he's admitted at least the guilt of running around the world and just impregnating whoever happens to darken his doorstep, apparently. But how do we know that these women didn't just get pregnant by somebody else and then were like, but I can get child support from him? So we just don't know. There are also rumors that Edwina Drummond, who was born April 1920, was fathered by the Prince of Wales, who also happened to be her godfather. And he was a regular visitor to her family home, Pittsford Hall, outside Northampton, where he rode with the Pytchley Hunt. Wilf Harris, who was a choir boy at the village church, recalls the prince's visits. He said, "We all knew he was fond of horses and of her, Mrs. Drummond. Many in the village," he said, believed that the prince was having an affair with Kathleen Drummond and was the father of her third daughter, Edwina. "No doubt about it," said Harris. But, we're getting accounts from the village choir boy, who was probably knee-high to a grasshopper at the time, and he's just repeating what everybody else is saying. It's like our greatest source of information is the village choir boy who's like, well, there were rumors. There's always rumors. Now, again, the likelihood, very high. Probably. But, it just feels like so much gossip. What we continue. Another local, a retired policeman in Northamptonshire, agrees. Okay, well, they've at least got a policeman on. So we got the policeman and the choir boy both saying that this is true. His mother was an employee at Pittsford Hall, and he had been left in no doubt by the stories handed down to him. Stories. Edwina was the prince's daughter, he said. Everyone knew she was different. Her father, George Drummond, is supposed to have caught his wife Kathleen with the Prince of Wales in a compromising situation in the stables and said, "Sir, I will share my wine and horses with any man, but I will share my wife with no man." It's quite a line, and it's a good story, and it'd be just the sort of thing you would like to pass around the little village. I don't know. Now, Drummond's second wife, Honora, claims that whereas Edwina's three sisters inherited their father's aquiline nose, Edwina had the turned-up nose like the prince. Oh, the nose gives it away. In 1937, while still at finishing school in Germany, she saw the prince on her visit to Hitler. The links between the two families continued, with George VI becoming godfather to Drummond's son George from his second marriage, and the Princess Elizabeth and Margaret learning to ride at Pittsford. Edwina later married Eric Merville, who had served in the French Foreign Legion, and blah, 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 blah. Okay, well, it seems very likely that he had this daughter. It's interesting that he would be made godfather. But I'm like, what's going on with old Mr. Drummond here, Mr. George Drummond, who would allow this man to become the godfather of his daughter when he had caught his wife in a compromising situation? Is his testosterone so low that he'd be willing for this other man to hedge in on the family? Was there some sort of financial arrangement that he decided to just swallow his grief that his wife had been fooling around? What exactly? Although, we do have to suppose that things might not have been all that they could be, since, again, he did have a second wife. So maybe they did divorce and he finally got some gumption and left the woman. Who knows? Anyway, the tale of the illegitimate children continue. There's a more convincing case, says Andrew Lowney, although I can't say that I agree with him, to be made for the actor Timothy Seeley. This particular case is different than the others, not because the evidence is all that much better, but because it's just gross. It's gross how this whole thing went down. Apparently, they say that Timothy Seeley, who is an actor, was fathered by the Duke. But what makes it even more slimy is that his mother's name is Vera, and she is the sister of Freda Dudley Ward. Now, Freda Dudley Ward was the woman who he liked to write letters to, and he'd do his little baby talk, and he called her Fwetty Wetty and all this. So sick and weird. But apparently, he was getting it on with her sister, too, and had a child by her sister. What? That is so gross. Okay, but see, this is why I'm saying the evidence is lacking. The Seeley family later played down the story, which was first revealed by the author John Parker, and they refused to talk to the author about it. But after the Duke's death, the family was contacted by the Duke's lawyers, I'm guessing to, hand over some money. And some people say that it wasn't actually Timothy Seeley who was fathered by the Duke, but actually it was the sister. No one really knows, but one of those kids was fathered by the Duke. And it's just sick because I guess both of their mother and their aunt were also both involved with him. This guy, it's like, was there any woman who he wasn't just like, bring her in? And apparently any man who wasn't like, bring him in. I don't know. The information, like I said, is interesting, but it's just so much gossip. The book goes on to say, over the years, various authors and reporters have contacted Tim for interviews and articles, but the response was always the same. He's not interested. His wife Camilla said firmly, he is immensely discreet. We would not wish to be even a small part of yet more unworthy stories concerning the royal family. That's sweet that they'd want to protect the Duke. I think that you can throw somebody under the bus without throwing the whole family under the bus. The royal family is not one indiscreet member. And so, I mean, if this guy was really, running around and just, having kids all across the face of the earth, I think this person should be held account for that. How irresponsible to have a child and then not even be part of that child's life, and there are consequences to your actions. And why should we protect this person who felt like it was 110% okay to be sleeping with one woman and then take her sister on and then have kids with the sister of his mistress? It's like, this guy is so morally twisted inside. It's really making a lot of sense why he felt like he had no compunction and no qualms about going and visiting the Nazis. Because where does he draw the line? Where does this man draw the line? There doesn't seem to be one thing in his life where he's like, oh, well, I won't cross that line. I'll retreat. That's not where I want to be. No, this man seems like 100% okay with whatever comes into his head. If it feels good, do it.